Thank you. I'm very happy to be speaking in support of this bill. Excuse me. I'd organised a press conference this morning on the basis of supporting Senator Paul Gavin's National Minimum Wage Protection of Employer Tips Bill 2017, where a former worker in the Ivy restaurant down the road here spoke at that, and she really expressed very articulately the conditions working in an environment like that. They were, these workers in the Ivy in July last year were headhunted by management who was brought in by the Ivy because they were the best workers possibly around the city. Because of their experience, they've been a long time working in industry, they had good experience, and they went and they left jobs to go into this restaurant on the expectation that it was going to be a good place to work, a good atmosphere to work in, decent enough wages for the industry, and that they get their tips. And she explained, my basic pay was a minimum wage. However, my contract stipulated slightly more per hour. On our first day, staff were shocked not to receive any credit card tips. We were told that service charges will be pooled into a so-called trunk to make up the difference between the minimum wage and the contracted wage, and that credit card tips will be paid the following month after 6 weeks working. Card tips were referred to as a bonus, but actually they would have meant the difference between poverty pay and survival pay. When we raised concerns about the process, we were promised that we would retain an increased share of credit card tips, would be paid fortnightly instead of monthly, and that tip distribution would be monthly. Instead, in that November of 2018, we received no tips bonus at all. Instead, we got a letter accusing us of greed. In December, we then met the Ivy's London-based HR manager, who told us that 100% of our card tips went towards trunk to pay our wages, and with the company retaining the excess after wages had been paid. Given that the Ivy was averaging around €3,000 per day in card tips, the excess was very substantial. Now, when we raised this in the Dáil, and I said it this morning in leaders' questions, and Minister Coveney replied very, very clearly that cash tips or card tips should not be, or was illegal to actually use them as part payment of wages between the difference of the national minimum wage and a contracted pay, agreement. The Ivy very quickly obviously got legal advice and got rid of the card tipping system off their cash machine, and the only alternative was to pay 12.5% service charge on every table. It had been for tables over 5 before that. Now, this is quite deliberate. This is the greed, not the greed of the workers, Minister. This is the greed of big companies who are undermining other companies who are trying to pay their workers a decent wage and run a system that could possibly be beneficial to the workers in relation to their tips. And that Ivy worker did say this morning that out of the 7 or 8 restaurants she's worked in, she's 11 years experience, only one actually had a democratic way of dealing with the tips that they got from customers. Because I think the key thing here is that when the customer gives a tip or service charge, it's on the basis that they make a decision that they had good service from the waiter or waitress, and that they were given that money on the basis of the service they gave. And I think that this bill deals with those issues, Minister. And I really can't say strongly enough that these workers are very vulnerable. They're in a situation where if somebody asks them, if I pay the service charge, will you get it? They can't answer. There's been instances where they send stooges into some of the restaurants to ask the staff to see what their response will be, and their response isn't what the management want them to hear, that they can be sacked. That's the environment that these workers are working in from that point of view. And I made the point this morning as well that really this practice of very, very greedy employers describes a republic of, does not describe a republic of opportunity, but more of a republic of the unacceptable face of capitalism. Because I think that what's happened in the hospitality sector over the last 10 to 15 years the same type of practice that's happened with bogus self-employed, zero-hour contracts, underemployment. There's been an attack on workers' pay and conditions on the basis of bosses who are very, very greedy and who want to just keep getting more profit while they're under pressure maybe on costs in relation to their own industry. And they're going after the workers' pay. And this is what they're doing here in relation to the tips. They're going after their tips, and it's tip theft and it's wage theft, essentially, at the end of the day. So I really want to thank the deputies for bringing this legislation forward. I think it will be brought into the committee. I find it really very, very bad for democracy that the government are again raising the issue of the money message. You know, these workers need some sort of response. The sooner the better. When is the Minister going to bring in her heads of bill in relation to what she's proposing? Is that going to be next month? Is it going to be before the Dáil rises? Is it going to be before the next another general election? We don't know. But this is a bill that's there. It's progressed since 2017 into the stages here at the moment. And I thank Sinn Féin for bringing this straight into the Dáil here for this stage of the bill. And I think it should be put through to committee in good faith, not in bad faith, which is what's happening here at the moment. And I was reading an article there while I was trying to get some information in relation to the bill, and there's a lot of reference to the Low Pay Commission. The Low Pay Commission have raised issues, and I think they should be looked at. But the one point they made in their report was that the Union of Students of Ireland submitted the results of surveys and Sinn Féin in the One Galway campaign that they'd undertaken, which examined practices within the hospitality sector and included data regarding the withholding of employees' tips by employers, that 1 in 3 workers were not receiving those tips. And the Commission went on to say that we did not consider undertaking its own survey into the matter. However, given the time constraints involved and the problem of trying to accurately survey what is, in essence, an informal and undocumented practice, the Commission did not feel such a survey was a practical option. And I think that was actually key to the report. They should have gone and got that information. There's reporters in the media that are coming back with more information about the different restaurants around town. Hard Rock Cafe is not one of them. There's another, a few of them around town that are doing the same practice of withholding service charges. And this is money that the customer believes should be going to the server. And I really do think the Minister should review her position in relation to the money message, review her position in opposing the bill, and get this through as quickly as possible, as efficiently as possible, and with the goodwill of everybody in the chamber.